Hey crafty people! Welcome back to my channel, and in case you're new here, I'm Sarah, also known as Craft Nerd because I'm a nerd who loves to craft. I do paper crafting, card making, junk journaling, and mixed media art. Let's get crafting! Oh, welcome back, and I am so excited I got my new Crafty by Tony stamps in, and I want to make some bits and bobs for the butterfly journals I'm going to be working on. And so I've got some papers that I dyed using Brushos, and I think I've got at least one in here that's coffee dyed. And so we're going to do a rainbow of bits and bobs today. And then I'm going to start with my yellow, which is my lightest color. And I'm going to put it in my MISTI, and I'm going to use my MISTI so I can kind of assembly line this. So by lining it up in the corner, when I put the stamps down, I can change paper. Theoretically, if this thing's going to grip the paper. And switch colors without having to worry about repositioning the stamps. So we're just going to go along and stick our stamps on. This paper's a little wrinkly because I dyed it. So, and if you're not familiar, Brushos are a powdered pigment. And so I just add it to some water to get, all right, since that corner does not want to stay for long, press down. Let's go ahead and pick those stamps up and keep going. Of course, now I don't know where they left off. All right, we're gonna stick them on this side. Let's see how far over that goes. I think I can get one more in. That's pretty much my line across, and so we'll just go down and line them all up going across here, and that does not look straight. And since I'm going to end up cutting these out, I can put them together fairly close together. Sure, this one's still going to be on our piece of paper because it goes a little, yes. All right. I'm gonna see how well Fossilize Amber does because I kind of want some in tone-on-tone colors and then some I'll do in either brown or black or both. Let's see how this works. I did not ink those guys up very well, but that's the other beauty of using the MISTI. I can go back and re-ink. Yeah, we definitely need more inking. Of course, this is also the first time I'm using these stamps, and they are, whatchamacallit, clear stamps, so if you don't have a MISTI, so you're not going to be able to restamp, and you're doing clear stamps for the first time, you should ink them up and stamp them on like a scrap piece of paper a couple times, just to kind of condition them so that they'll hold the ink better. That's getting better, and I actually do like the color we got going. There we go, and so I can pull this out, leave my stamps where they are, and then I've got a slightly darker shade of yellow. So let's do those. See, so this one's a little paler, that one's a little darker, so let's just do these with Fossilized Amber. Go. That came out pretty good. those off to the side. Now we're going to switch to orange, which I'll admit, this orange is really a pale orange. I think it looks kind of yellow, but it is orange. I swear it is. And let's use some spiced marmalade. Actually, this one I'm going to use wild honey. I'm not even going to bother cleaning the stamps because we're going lighter to darker, so it should be fine. And see, as you use your clear stamps more, they stamp better. Go. Oh, I think I just did that with the spiced marmalade instead of the wild honey. I'm not sure now. And I've got the slightly more orange. Yeah, I probably should have put more pigment in the water because it tends to dilute a fair bit. Trying to get a red is very difficult, and even the red I got this time around is a little more pinky red than red, but it's close enough. Got a dog wanting to go out. So I'll be back. He decided he did not want to go out because it's a little rainy out, and he is a very delicate butterfly. All right, I am gonna spritz this with a little water and use a microfiber cloth that has flour stuck to it to give it a good clean and make sure everybody's dry. And there's probably going to be some staining on the stamps. Not that worried about it. I just want to clean it off a little bit because we are switching colors. Let's move on to pink. So since there's a big difference between like the pink and the orange, I didn't want to just keep going with the ink on the stamps. I wanted to clean them off so that my pink would be pink. Probably should test this and make sure I got them clean enough. Maybe I will grab a scrap piece of paper just to make sure I'm not gonna have a muddy pink. Ooh, that is definitely looking muddy pink. That is looking more orange than pink. I am glad I did that. Let's do that. Try and get some more of the ink off. Let's try that again now that I've got the stamps all clean. Just kind of stamping a clean stamp over here to see. Yeah, that is still, I'm not liking the color. Like that's the pink it should be, and it's not that. All right, I'm gonna need to give these an even more thorough cleaning than I apparently have, despite, you know, my best efforts here to try and get them to not be kind of orangey pink. All right, I'll be back. Okay, I think I finally got it clean. That took a lot more effort than I thought it would. Yay, there we go. That's the color I was going for. Now, I'll still use the other ones, but this is what I wanted color-wise. And my dog is not happy that I'm not sitting with him on the couch. All right, I'm gonna go through and do the rest of my colors off camera. Then we're gonna flip these pages and do it using either black or brown or gray to stamp them. So I'll be back. Okay, and I did do a piece of coffee dyed paper with for the red I used fired brick, and so I'm gonna do all of my rainbow of colors on coffee dyed paper as well. So I've got neutral backgrounds with the colored label stamping. So here we go. And I definitely need to do a darker purple, like dye some that's a darker purple. So there's our collection of stamped in color. I feel like I'm missing the yellows. I may be missing paper. I'll find it here in a sec. So what we're now gonna do is, I think we'll start with this guy, and I'm gonna flip it over, and we're gonna stamp it again using a neutral color. And look, that's perfect. And so I'm gonna start by doing Hickory Smoke. So we've got colored and a neutral. And then I think I'm gonna use the Hickory Smoke on the pink as well. Then I'm gonna switch it up a little bit, and we're gonna switch to a brown, which I think I've got Vintage Photo in the Archival Inks. Not worried too much about getting it too cleaned off because we're going, the Vintage Photo I think should be darker. So let's grab that. And we'll do that on this one. We go with the brown, and then this one we'll do brown as well. I'm definitely missing the yellow. Here they are. Let's do this one. Gonna go black. All right, I am gonna go ahead and do all the rest of them using black, and then I'll be back. Okay, so I've gone ahead and stamped all my initial ones with the label stamps. And then I did a whole bunch more stamping. I just basically set up a TV tray table in front of my, a TV tray table in front of my TV. Got apparently 2 of those too. That's one on using the colored inks. I think I must have done 2 sets of everybody in the label land. And I actually pulled out my VersaFine Claire stamp pads for some of these. So, like, that's definitely the Claire. I think that's the Claire. So yeah, I mixed things up a little bit. And then I did some more Crafty by Tony stamps. More labels, and then little bits and bobs. And then this is, where's the set? I think it's Nature Fill-Ins, and I probably pulled some from Entomology Passport Elements, and that's by Creative Expressions and Tracie Fox Creative, and it's CEC 1124 and 1123. Now I know Creative Expressions was closing, so I don't know if these stamps are still available. Oh, there's some more labels. Oh, and then these are more Crafty by Tony stamps. I'll leave a link to her Etsy down below. Or Crafty by Tony stamps. Yeah, I like went to town stamping stuff in all the colors. So there's lots of bits and bobs to play around with. There's the rest of the Entomology ones. So yeah, a beautiful rainbow. And then more. I got in some new Crafty by Tony stamps, and then I have some other older ones that I've gotten from her that I just haven't used enough. So I just kind of went to town stamping in front of my TV. Now, for some of these, I want to add some additional stamping to the labels now. And some I'll just leave blank and add stuff to them later on when I go to use them. Also, at this point, your options are you can either cut everything out and have them, you know, ready to use and cut out, which I do. Like I've got, here's some green ones I did trying to go for like Christmassy colors a while ago. So these are a little, the green stamping's a little darker. Like I think I may have used, this may be peeled paint, and so some of them in this set may be this, and these are Elizabeth Craft design stamps. So you can cut them out. I don't love having these guys stored like this, and a lot of these are really, really tiny, and that's the only way to store them. I much prefer using something like this, which is, you know, for storing stamps, like postage stamps. I like to be able to flip through and find what I'm looking for and have it laid out like that versus like digging through a little container. But a lot of these bits are too small. So what I did the last time I was stamping bits and bobs, and I used the Tim Holtz Curator stamp set to stamp bits and bobs. So I've got those bits and bobs stamped, is I just left them on the sheet, and when I need something I just go and grab it. Oh, see, I stamped some of these guys too again, and that's this is, I forget which stamp set this is, Tidbits maybe, yeah, I think that's the name of that one. But so when I want one of these, I just cut them out as I go. But yeah, so that's an option. I just keep them in a little plastic sleeve behind me, and when I need a little bit and bob that I'm like a curator stamp piece, I'll just pull them out and fussy cut it out. It does take a bit longer than like when I'm doing a video, but like I said, I like being able to see more readily, and by pulling out the sheet I can see exactly what's on it than digging through like a little container like this to find what I want. So that's just a personal preference. If you like, you know, having all your stuff in like little containers and going through it and finding what you want, then go ahead and cut these guys out once you're done stamping. But as I said, I wanted to do a little bit of decorating on some of them. And some of them I'll keep clean because, again, I may want to wait and decide if there's something like perfect that I have in my stamp set that'll work with what I'm going to use it on. Then I'll do that. And let me grab, where did my Misty, because for a few of these I want to put some butterflies in. Okay, so because I stamped this in Vintage Photo, so we're going to stick with that. And what I want to do is grab a couple Post-it notes because I thought it might be cool to, let's put down the Post-it note, because I want to cover up where I don't want to stamp, just there, and that should be fine. And I'm going to take a butterfly from Crafty by Tony, and maybe do this one. Is one going to fit? And stamp it so it's kind of like going off the label, like that. Well, that didn't work great. We'll just reapply our Post-it, stick it on there, maybe it'll stay better. Kind of going off the page I like that. And then let's grab, what else do we want to put on there? Let's stamp Collected. Let's see if I can find it. Got the Tracie Facts set has got, let's see, where is it? The various groups. So let's grab Insecta. Butterflies are Lepidoptera. And then the subclass is Pterygota, because I'm assuming the P is silent. All right, let's stamp those first, and then we'll squeeze the subclass in the middle. And there we go, we've got a fully stamped label. Now for other ones, we can just go far more simpler and just stamp like a number or a word or something in them. Let's do a couple of those on this sheet, and then we'll switch colors and do some colored ones maybe. So yeah, and there you go. That one's done and good to go, and just a stamped bits and bobs for using in clusters and for decorating, you know, tags and stuff like that. So let's see, let's do one down here. I think that's the Versifying Clair ink. Entomology, and you know, when I go to use it, I may want to grunge it up and use like a splatter stamp to add some grunginess to the background, but these don't have to be fully done at this point. And let's go grab one in a different color. Let's go with this one. I think what I'm gonna do is first grab like a scripty stamp, and I'm going to again use my post-it notes so that I don't stamp everywhere. This is like a really generic thing of post-its, and so half the time the sticky bit stays on the one behind it. So yes, not high quality. Let's just block the whole thing off. Let's get a very light colored ink for the background. I think I'm gonna grab Speckled Egg. Stamp that as our background. So yeah, it just adds a little bit of interest to the background there. And then I'm gonna grab a butterfly. I think that one will just fit on that label. There we go. I feel like that was done using Salvage Patina Archival Ink. Let's try it and see what we get and if we like it. The upside of using the Misty is if that's not intense enough, I can grab another ink pad and go over it. And I think I am, and I think I'm gonna go with First Fine Clair in Warm Breeze. Now I feel like that's too intense for the label. Dang nabbit. It's fine. I'm gonna go with it. Cause I mean I can't make it less intense of a color. But I could conceivably come back and restamp the label over top. Although the likelihood of me getting that lined up perfectly correct is pretty small. So yeah, we've got that one. And let's do maybe one more. All right, now for this one, I'm gonna use a couple more of my new Crafty by Tony stamps. And we're gonna do it so that it's oriented this way, because sometimes you need something that's going vertical instead of horizontal. So don't forget to do a mixture when you pre-stamp. That's why I tend to not do too much in the pre-stamping, because then when I go to use it, I can make sure it's going in the direction I want it to for that piece. So it gives me more options. So like I said, I'm probably going to do a few more and do them off camera, because I don't know that you need to see me do this on, you know, a couple on every page, because that would presumably get very boring for you. So there you go. And now if you wanted to like assembly line this, since we stamped all of the labels in the same spot, I could do like this one the same way. It should be lined up. Yep. And I'm going to do that in gray. I'm trying to decide. I don't remember if that was done with the Archival Hickory Smoke or the First Fine Clair. I think it's Morning Mist. Or let's do a little tester. Let's just grab something random I can stamp over on the side with to determine if that's the color. And I just get I think it might be the Hickory Smoke. Let's go Hickory Smoke. Yeah, I like that. That looks cool. I may do more of those. So yeah, that's the basic idea, is to add a little bit of interest to some of the labels beforehand, so you've got some ready to go, and then I'm going to leave some just completely plain so that I can decorate them, you know, when the time comes, and that way I can decide vertical, horizontal, in color, in neutral, you know. And you know what, let's do one where we mix it up and do a neutral on a colored one, so you can see that. And I really kind of like this little butterfly and other stamp that I've got going on, so let's do that on this one. I'm gonna just pull it down just a hair and do it in the Archival. Can definitely do neutral stamping on a colored stamp label. And you can then, of course, do color on a neutral. Let's do one of those. I'm going to try Distress Mustard Seed. So yeah, just play around, stamp some stuff on some of them. I'm probably going to leave most of them plain, but I am definitely going to do some more stamping on some more of these labels, so I have a few like ready to go. But yeah, so that's option one with the bits and bobs. Let me move some stuff out of the way, and I will show you my second type of bits and bobs that I want to do for this journal. So next, I want to stamp some butterflies that I can then either fussy cut or die cut out. And actually I have the coordinating die that goes with this set of, it's Tim Holtz Stampers Anonymous I forget the name of the step. This is before I was actually keeping track of that. And so I'm just gonna line up a bunch of butterflies on here. Now these I need to leave a little bit more space around if I'm gonna use the dies to cut them apart. Can't quite fit all of the butterflies from the stamp set on one page. So we'll do that because there's 2 more butterflies in this set. So let's do that. And I think we're gonna try the mustard seed again and see how we like that, because I don't have a ton of yellow stamp ink pads. I don't have any in the Versafine Claire, which makes me think I should see what yellow they have and at least get it, because then I have a permanent ink. And the Fossilize Amber, I wasn't, like, it was coming out a little too orangey, and it might have been because, no, I think I stamped that one first, and I think this is it. And it's a little, yeah, it's not as, like, I want more yellow. None of the yellow ones that I've got are particularly yellow, if that makes any sense. So yeah, we're gonna keep stamping this because it's gonna take a few go rounds, and that's the nice thing with the Misty. I think I may have squished the corner of this butterfly, and so it's not getting good contact with the paper. Let's see, let's add a little bit more ink to that. See if we can actually get that to stamp. And of course, since these are dyed papers, they're not exactly flat, so there are definitely some spots where, and technically you're supposed to take out the matte when you use red rubber, because it gives more room for the stamp. This guy, that corner also looks like it might be squished down a little. I think these are an old style case, and I wasn't always careful to make sure, like, there wasn't a stamp where that is, so it tends to indent the stamps a little. So not ideal, but give enough pressure and you can get it done. And that is why I love having a Misty, because it gives me the option of going back in and being like, okay, that wing needs more squishiness on it. All right, I think those are pretty good. Let's take those off. I'm gonna do the other 2 and sub out a couple of the ones on here and do, let's see, which ones were pains in the next stamp? This one, we'll take that one out and replace it with that guy. And then let's replace this one with this guy. Now this is gonna be a little tricky. You know what, let's move things around a little bit. So I'm gonna do that there, that there. Just do a quick check. Yeah, everybody's gonna be fine. They're all on the paper. Because we're gonna do these 2, the new ones in yellow, and the others in gray, I think. Because as much as I like the shape and the style of these butterflies, there's a lot of dark on them when you stamp them. So when you stamp in black, like, there's not a lot of color. So that's why I was stamping them in yellow, so I could have colorful butterflies. Clean those off. Grab, I think we're gonna go Hickory Smoke for them again. That one just needs a little bit more up there. And this center. There we go. We've got another page of butterflies, and I will use the dies to die cut these out. Now I know the dies like cut off the antennae, which you can always just add back in with a pen, but this way I can have a whole rainbow of butterflies. So I am gonna finish stamping all of these while I've got the butterflies out, and then I'll be back and I'll show you one more type of stamped bits and bobs that I like to do to have on hand when I'm getting ready to make a journal, so that I've got things to use in clusters and decorating and all that good stuff. So I'll be back. Now for the last stamped bits and bobs, I do stamped numbers, and I do them on the torn off edges of book page. So these are a bunch of vintage and antique book page, the torn edge strips of those. The edges that I cut off of digitals, like when I print out the ephemera and the fuzzy cuts and that sort of stuff, there's often a lot of white space left, so I use those. And then this is a bunch of that paper that I just coffee dyed. So I'll do a few to show you like what I usually do for these on camera, and we'll do some of each. So I'll just set the piece down. I will grab a stamp block, and because everything varies in size and shape, can't really do this as an assembly line with my MISTI like I normally would, but let's grab just a random, I've got out Tim Holtz Stampers Anonymous. Let's do this guy. And then I'll just take like random ink color. Let's go with the first Fine Clair Warm Breeze. And stamp several. So there we go. And then usually what I'll do is clean off the stamp and grab another strip. This one's one of the coffee dyed strips. And do another color using the same stamp. So I'll do like a rainbow of colors with one stamp, and then I'm trying to get this to lay a little flatter, and it is not cooperating. Let's do that. And so let's grab Bundled Sage. And usually I'll stamp it like 3, maybe 4 times in each color, just depending on my mood. And usually what I'll do is I'll also then pull out and do a couple on the white. So yeah, I'll just keep going along, stamping all the colors. I think I need stamped bits in like orange. I don't think I have. So like this one I'll stamp a couple times, and I'm not too worried if it doesn't stamp perfect. I may or may not use that. I may put something over it when I go to use it that covers up the fact that it didn't stamp very well. And so yeah, I just go through, like for this one, since I'm doing like my rainbow of colors, I do like a rainbow of this stamp in all the different colors. And the nice thing with the white is I can just go in and ink it with whatever color I want when I go to use it. And then usually with the antique vintage paper or coffee dyed, it's good to go. It doesn't generally need any more inking or anything like that, so it's all ready to go. Shaded Lilac Distress. And so I just grab whatever color is the color I want kind of thing. Like, what color do you want? And whatever type of ink's gonna get me the shade that I want. So like this gives me the lighter purple. Do a few on here, and then maybe we'll go with a brighter purple. So that's basically what I do for those pieces, and then you have them to use when you need an element on a piece. So I am gonna probably do a bit more of this, clean up, and then I'll come back and show you what we did. Okay, so I think I may have gone a little overboard. So here we have our stamped label bits and bobs on colored paper. And then I've got some more bits and bobs stamped on our color paper that I did off camera. So we've got those guys. And as I said, you can either fussy cut this stuff out, and there's some more labels, and most of these, except these guys, are Crafty by Tony stamps. And I'll leave a link to her Etsy down below. So we got those, and then we've got our stamped bits and bobs where I stamped in color on coffee dyed strips of paper ripped off of the edges of old book page, and then the white offcuts from digitals. So there's a whole pretty stack of colored papers right there. And then we've got our Tim Holtz Stampers Anonymous butterfly stamps that I stamped on the same colored papers as this pile over here. And I stamped in color and I stamped in gray. And I do want to show you like kind of a comparison of the butterflies side by side. So there we've got the two pink butterflies. And I find it really interesting that it kind of, with the gray, you're kind of getting, the pink comes through, at least in person, more than the pink background on the pink stamped one. And the exact opposite with the purple. With the purple, the really pale purple paper, in real life, this is looking less purple with the gray stamped on it than the pieces stamped in purple. But so there we go. I've got a whole lot of bits and bobs, probably way more than I need. But at least, like, the butterflies, yeah, I'm mostly going to use in a butterfly journal. But I use butterflies in other things as well, because I really do like using butterflies. The stamp bits and bobs, they're going to work with whatever kind of journal I'm creating. If I don't, pre-stamp them, having them blank like this so that I can fill in as I go means I can tailor these guys to whatever journal I'm working in. And I have lots to choose from. So I think that's all for today. And like I said, you can go ahead and fussy cut all of these out. For the number bits, usually I will trim them down to the individual elements and store them in my stamp storage book, like I did here. And some of them, like with some of the thinner ones, or if I was getting tired of cutting stuff out, I might have just left them in. So that's an option. You can just decide which you'd prefer to do. And then when I need to use one, if I decide I wanted to use this Department 177, I just snip it off from the rest of the pieces. So yeah, you don't have to cut it out in advance, or you can. That's completely up to you. And the same with these. I'm probably not gonna cut like these pages apart because these are so small, they won't really work in that kind of storage that I've just showed you. So like the teeny tiny bits don't really work. So some of the bigger elements I may cut out, and like this one I may cut apart because this will fit nicely, like these pieces, in my little stamp holders. And maybe some of these pieces, but otherwise, and like the big pieces I might cut out, but the little ones, because they got to get stored in like a container like this where I have to dig through it. Don't really love that, so I'm probably going to just leave them as is and cut them out as I go, like I showed with the Holtz Curator stamps that I have done on colored paper. So yeah, that's all for today. If you enjoyed this video, please do all the things that lets YouTube know you enjoyed the video. Like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, leave me a comment down below. Thanks for joining me, and happy crafting.